On top of all of it, war is looming. Haven't we suffered enough as a nation? Yet Rumburg, vast in size and military, eyes our mineral wealth and seeks to exploit our perceived weakness. I'm convinced that they are behind the mysterious weapon caches that have turned up in the hands of militant separatists and other elements, sowing further discord to weaken our response. The army is strengthening our border defenses, and we're sending out visible patrols, but both us and them know that this isn't much more than posture. If they were to invade, and my advisors surely seem to believe that they are building up to that, we must seek immediate diplomatic backing with a major power, as even rushed conscription or weapon purchases would do little to deter them on our own. I must reassure my family in these trying times and keep the country together. This may turn out to be one of the worst crises in our history, but I refuse to lose hope. Our economic situation is once again unstable. After our initial successes in dealing with the recession, things are, not going too well. However, all in all, it could be worse, but it could also be significantly better. Let's go through the news and see what else we get, and then we may have to have dinner with the family and then look for a new day to see what we can do about all the crises that are cropping up. Rumors of an infrastructure project. So that is Swordland Today. Anonymous sources have reported to Swordland Today that several government officials have invited construction companies to meetings regarding a new major infrastructure project. If true, this is great news, as infrastructure in Swordland is lacking heavily needed investment. We hope that very qualified and experienced companies like Underhole Construction win the bid. Okay, what is your connection to Underhole Construction? Let's see. Real estate giant by the mayor of Conriad, Chris Shar. Most people in Swordland know the name Underhole Construction, but the many iconic buildings they have constructed in nearly all major cities. Recently, the company sold half of the shares to Walter Tusk, spokesperson of the Lotterberg Group. These are people that I'm going to have to deal with. While this breached certain competition clauses, it was largely ignored. Underhole is a gigantic real estate company that is very influential in construction projects of the private sector. Some of the recent work is the Holsworth Central Station, which they have completed on time but violated workers' rights in the process. Okay, so the Lotterberg Group, under the leadership of, I think Walter Tusk was the spokesman or some sort of these guys. They have gotten a majority stake in Underhole Constructen, and they are known for, let's say, ruthless efficiency. So given that Swordland Today is belonging to one of the other oligarchs that I'm still going to have a meeting with at some point, they're clearly playing into each other's pockets here. No, it's not enough that is surprising. Let's see what The Economist has to say. Underhole Construction, once again number one. Underhole Construction was once again picked as number one construction company of the year by the reputable Statistics Swordland. I wonder who owns that particular group. It was the 11th time the company was selected for the top spot in a row since Chris Shar was appointed as the CEO. Veteran industry leader Shar congratulated the employees first and foremost in a private company meeting held in a luxurious resort in Erlory. He also mentioned the recent addition of Heart of Swordland organization CEO Marcel Coronti to the board of advisors, helped immediately in this great achievement. And there's our connection. So Coronti Jr. has clearly been working with Tusk to get that construction company under their control by majority share, and is looking to further exploit the workers. Yeah, I'm liking this man less and less. At The Economists, we think now is a great time to invest in Underhole Construction, as the current year's projection already shows a 13% increase in growth compared to the last year. Remember, kids, if everyone talks about it, it's not a great investment. But economists appear to be pushing that as well. So I don't know if I'm going to get the say in this, but ideally we would not funnel government funds into further private companies. that then line the pocket of rich oligarchs at the expense of the working class, because that is not why we're doing this. So if things come up, underhole construction is on the naughty list. Lochhaven Times. Gang violence claims young girl's life. A 15-year-old girl was shot to death in Narbel as she walked her dog a few blocks away from her apartment. The police said the shooting, which occurred in an area affiliated with the gang Coranelli. Coranelli was one of the criminal organizations that we need to deal with. And we were going to create a dedicated anti-corruption force and a sort of task force to deal with this. Was a reckless act of violence and the victim was not the target. The 15-year-old was shot about 4:45 p.m. right before she was returning home. A man who witnessed the event told police the shooters yelled gang slogans at him on the street before he heard someone fire at least 10 shots, sources said. He later saw that the victim had been hit and called the authorities. Our sources report that the local police force of the region is understaffed and overworked, which adds to the current bleak situation. So yeah, this is Lilias's corner. Although I would prefer if the anti-corruption organization would going to be run under my top lawyer rather than under Lilias, because I am getting a bad feeling about this. But yeah, this is we need to both increase the police force and decorrupt the police force in order to stop these sort of things. What's the radical going to be to have to say? Now, they are somewhat on my political side, but obviously they have a very narrow focus on things. The real truth behind economic crisis. Well, yeah, I would like to know. I have some ideas, but let's see what they have to say. We've all seen this scenario play before. Large corporate businesses, time and time again, receive money from the government under the disguise of helping the economy. But what about the people? Many in the neglected regions still do not have electricity or fresh water in their homes, and they are the lucky ones. There is a growing housing crisis, and people are on the streets begging for food. In the year 1954, it is high time that money is invested in us, the people of Swordland, instead of armchair millionaires in their luxurious villas. I completely agree. Which is why we are going to have a word or two about which construction company is doing this, or alternatively, if we can find probable clause for that construction company underpaying workers, then we might have to look into our first attempts at nationalization of certain key economic areas. 1927, never again. Yeah, I was there when General Luderin and Rickard clashed in the plains outside of Holsword when the armies of Swordish people killed each other. I was there when Colonel Sol won the war after bombarding cities with Swordish civilians inside them. We saw this great nation fall into bloodshed and chaos. We thought that we learned our lesson and formed a new republic. But one man's idea became the idea of the state, and we allowed it to be forced upon us. They are not wrong there. We were a generation who lived with Tarkin Sol for most of our lives. However, this generation is different. Our kids have not experienced civil war or martial law. Their generation is born into a changing time. We cannot allow the same conditions to return. We cannot forget when General Luderin declared martial law in 1927, when his tanks rolled and murders took place. Those tanks cannot roll again. Bombs cannot fall again. Freedoms cannot be suspended again. 1927, never again. I agree. We have to avoid another civil war by all means, even though that is what our enemies, both foreign and domestic, are trying to force upon us. And we've got the Geopolitico for looking outside. Rumburg has closed down its consulate in Swordland, one of the few East Mercopian nations to have diplomatic ties with the Northern Kingdom. This comes right after the deployment of Rumburgian troops near the northern borders of Swordland. Rumburgian officials cite political unrest and uncertainty as the main reason for the closure, while raising concerns over security in the country. In Lochhaven, a diplomatic source said the Rumburgian flag had been lowered overnight and that the diplomatic staff were expected to leave Swordland on Friday or Saturday. Many Lochhaveners were shocked as the 120-year-old Rumburg consulate closed. Dozens of citizens with Rumburgian relatives went out to protest against this action in the afternoon. It was not clear if the consulate closure was temporary or permanent, signaling a break in diplomatic ties which date from 1923. Our editors see the situation as a further deterioration of relations between Swordland and Rumburg. This can be easily regarded as a one-sided provocation from the north. I do agree with the geopolitical here. Clearly, they are preparing, they're setting the stage, and apparently the northern region is probably where they are going to be invading. So let's see if we can get a closer look at that. And we have the closest cities here, Crimsrad and Rochester, that might be supporting incursions into potentially England. Was England? Yeah, there's a Rumburgian minority in, although albeit relatively small. There were some smaller Rumburgian minorities, but more so actually in this region. So I was actually expecting that they would hit here, because this is strategically not valuable. So my guess would be they would push towards Lochhaven, try to take the single export port, effectively use the Rumburgian minorities to support their troop movements, and then effectively force a surrender of the country, and then annex probably everything up to here, and leave Swordland as a rump state while they have gained access to most of our mineral resources in the ground, and taken over the major export port in the site. So this needs to be prevented. All right. So what other reports do we have? We do have a report from Vesord in the Lorraine region. Around midnight, red youth protesters clashed with young swords at the Vesord city center, resulting in many injuries. The counter-protesters were cornered in front of the United Contana consulate after they were pushed back by the police. The diplomatic mission opened its doors, and red youth members escaped inside. The police are still waiting outside the building for the return of red youth members. Now, obviously, they are sympathetic towards the red youth. We do have to be careful, however, that foreign countries are not starting to run the show here. But yes, they have obviously. I wouldn't put it past them to have some coordination with the red youth. But again, I am sympathetic towards the East, so we can probably overlook these sort of things for now. But we do need to stop the clashes between people. Another report from Suzerain. What do we have? And the rise of Golkondism in rural areas of Bergia. Okay, so we do have to look at the religious things here a little bit. Let's read the report first, and we'll see if that's something I need to pay further attention to. So, Golkondism, a minor religious branch of Ruicist Nurity, has gained a significant following in the city of Suzerain and the rural areas of Bergia, mainly due to limited access to education and employment opportunities. The sect offers a sense of community, purpose, and salvation through strict adherence to its doctrines. The BFF and foreign proselytizers are suspected to be behind the sudden increase in Golkondism. Many Bludish political leaders are recruiting members through grassroots campaigns, making Golkondism one of the most popular religious groups in the region. However, officials fear that the sect's strict rules and practices may lead to social unrest, warranting further investigation and development of strategies in collaboration with local community leaders to address the situation. Okay, then. I probably do have to take a quick peek at the religious situation, so let me check that out. Okay, so without going into the depth of things here, we have two major religions. We've got Nurity, which is a monotheistic religion, and we've got Zaranism, which is a duotheistic religion. And then we've got a sort of fusion between the two. We've got the traditional Dust Nurity following the prophet Dust, and then we've got the Ruhicisms who follow a prophet they consider the successor of Dust. And then we've got the Golkondism, which is the one we just read about, which seems to be reasonably strict about things, and a newer sect that is coming out. But all of the newerty is centered around the, what was it called? Is centered around the constructing a Golconda, a sacred pillar. Okay. So let us have a brief look at the distribution here. So we've got dust neurity as well as Golkondism here quite mixed up. And this does not match the Swordish-Blutish separation here. So I don't know what the overlap is between the Blutish population and a specific religious orientation here. Let's have a quick look around in the other cities. It almost looks, also the color scheme looks relatively matching. So it could be that the Swordish people are more on the neurity side, or the dust neurity side, basically the Catholics, whereas the Bloods are more on the Golkondism side, which may almost be considered. I'm not sure where that aims for. I was thinking Islam, but it's the parallels are vague. So how does that look like in, for example, Whole Sword? It's mostly the Russicism, or the Reformed neurity is the Protestants. So we seem to have a larger share of Golkondism in the troubled regions, where matching the Blutish population. So that's where I'm assuming this is going. I'm not sure if there's an awful lot that we need to do about it at this stage, but we do have one other news item. Arcasia has developed the first intercontinental ballistic missile. Oh yeah, we're in the 1950s. The Arcasian Treaty Organization proudly announces the successful development of the aptly named Missile 4. Yeah, naming things not your strength, is it? Its first intercontinental ballistic missile, with a range capable of reaching targets thousands of kilometers away and advanced precision targeting, this milestone underscores the alliance's enhanced strategic deterrence capabilities. And my trigger of an international arms race as well. Combined with the recently matured intermediate-range missile systems, this achievement demonstrates ATO's readiness to address emerging security challenges and ensure the protection of its member states. And that we have an international arms race here. So, ICBMs. I don't know if we have nuclear weapons at this stage, but we do have at least the range to reach the opposing side. So, the Cold War is clearly upon us. That all said, I now have to go. Well, I don't have to, but I can now go and have finally dinner with the family, where I haven't really talked to them an awful lot since everything that's kicked off, and now with war looming as well, plus the security situation on the ground, I will have probably some reassurance to do. After a long day at the palace, I was finally home. I thanked Serge and walked through the front gates, nodding at the two guards as I went by. Even as I turned the doorknob, I could hear Diana rushing down the stairs to greet me. I opened the door and there she was, standing in front of me with expectant eyes. Papa, you're home. Yes, I am finally home. Okay. Does she like to be called a princess? I don't know. We'll just. How old is she? Attending elementary school, so I think she was probably about, let's say, 8 years old or something. So she might not be into the whole lifting thing anymore, but we're going with the beautiful princess. I lifted her up and hugged her while trying to put the keys in the tray next to the entrance. Okay, she's into it after all. She was growing fast. Lifting her up was no longer as easy as it once was. I can certainly attest to that kind of thing. I used to carry my kid around a lot when he was little, but that is no longer possible. Okay, how was your school? Boring. I like my old school better. Yeah, we had to transfer, so that is difficult for the kids because, well, I put her down and her expression turned serious. Papa, are the bad men gone? No, breaks my heart with this. She's not. Children are not stupid. They do realize what's going on. And it was certainly not just one bad man. There are more. I will do what I can to not let anyone hurt you, but you also have to be aware that there's a world out there, and I think she's old enough to understand that. I can't lie to her, tell that everything is fine when people are potentially going to kill each other in the street and the war is looming. So best I can do is reassure her that I'm not going to let anyone hurt her. She dashed down the hallway. Papa's here. Monica appeared next to the kitchen door. She was wearing an apron and holding a spatula in her hand. Diana, what did I tell you? No running in the house. Yes, Mama. Monica approached me and kissed me on the cheek. A tantalizing smell wafted from the kitchen behind her. What do we have a cook for? No. She is probably really just trying to get some normalcy and not just sit around and do nothing. So I'm going not to just dismiss her efforts, and also not just take it for granted, but just ask how her day was. Terrific. I finally got to do some grocery shopping just like old times, and I'm making your favorite. Yeah, it's a coping mechanism, I think. You mean zabla, whatever that may be. Zabla was one of my hometown specialties, a chickpea stew topped with beef, braised in tomatoes and Bergian spices, traditionally served in a clay pot. That sounds actually pretty amazing. A chickpea stew. I personally do like to cook talking outside character for a second. I personally like to do a regular pea stew with more with sort of sausages and smoked ham. But this sounds pretty good as well. It was absolutely my favorite dish, especially paired with kibbage, a potent unfiltered wine from my region. No, not asking what the occasion is. I have a feeling that this is a coping mechanism, so I'm going to give her a kiss on the cheek. Just wanted to cheer everyone up a bit. Yeah, I know. I get it. Her smile faded and she lowered her voice so that Diana wouldn't hear. Especially after what happened at the ball. I understand that, yeah. I'm worried, Anton, for you, for the children, and for the country. So am I. Diana suddenly appeared next to us. Mama? Yes, sweetheart. I'm hungry. We'll eat in just a minute. Will you help me set the table? Anton, can you tell Frank to come down for dinner? He's been sulking in his room all day. He's probably not taking this well either. She started taking out the plates while I headed upstairs to fetch my son. Loud rock and roll music echoed down the hallway from his room. I caught a faint hint of cigarette smoke. We are in our rebellious phase, aren't we? So we need to tread carefully here, because he obviously feels that he's much more aware than the little one of what's happening, and he feels that, well, the future looks uncertain. So he looks for, rebellion and escapism in a way to make himself feel stronger. So I'm not just gonna open the door. I'm gonna respect that and give him a knock, so give him an opportunity to do away with things and get himself in order. There was no response. I'm going to give it a second knock, but 2 knocks is all you get, young man, and then we are going to have to have a chat. Knocked on the door again, still no response. I turned on that racket and opened the door. Stereo in Frank's room clicked off. All right. He unlocked and opened the door. What do you want? Turn those records up louder next time. I don't think the neighbors heard. Hand over the cigarettes and join your family for dinner. Yeah, how old is he? He is studying at high school, so I think you're a little bit too young for cigarettes. So not gonna get you into too much trouble, but please do hand them over and join the family for dinner. You smoke, don't you? I'm old enough to do what I want. No, you're not, young man. I'm just asking you to wait until you're out of the house. This is an interesting one, actually. So I did not expect to come into that sort of conversation, but I personally believe quite strongly into personal responsibility for children. So teaching them, giving them freedoms to experience things their own way, I believe is a way to make them stronger than keeping them coddled or under your thumb and simply preventing them from doing what you know or think is bad, as long as obviously certain rules are being held. So like drugs are out of the question, and certain other things as well. But within the limits that you set yourself, I personally believe quite strongly in giving kids a decent amount of freedom. Now, I did grow up in the 80s, and back then we were basically left to our own devices, more or less. So I'm still leaning into that. So definitely not as long as I live in this house. You do as I command. No, we're not doing that. I'm trying to quit that nasty habit. You ought to stop while you still can, or I'm just asking you to wait until you're out of the house. Yeah, definitely not. You shouldn't be smoking inside the house. Now, this is the 1950s, and things were a little bit different. Yeah, I should quit smoking as well. So I'm trying to quit that nasty habit. You ought to stop while you still can. Frank heaved a sigh, handed me the packet, and headed downstairs. I followed him to the living room. The table was prepared, and Monica was ladling food on the plates. Come on, have a seat. It won't be as tasty if it's cold. As we started eating, the room went quiet. Monica's cooking was as delicious as ever, but I had the feeling that wasn't the reason nobody spoke. No, obviously, we do have... Everyone knows not just what's been going on at the ball, but I'm sure rumors will eventually make their way through what's going on in the nation as well. Monica was the first to break the silence. Say, did you know that they refurbished the grocery store? Okay, you're deflecting, and which is probably the right thing for the kids to do, especially in difficult times. To create a stable and home with a sense of normalcy is an important thing to do. So I appreciate it. I know this is not what is on your mind, though. I don't know if you remember the owner. He's been there for every day for the past 30 years. Can you imagine doing the same job for so long? What if you were president for 20 years, for example? I'm certainly not planning on doing that. Yeah, we could live like kings. No. Would that really be so bad? Yes, it would be. I don't want this country to suffer under another soul. No, we do have to enact change, but I'm not looking to become dictator for life. 20 years of this, I'd be dead. Certainly not what I want the kids to hear. I don't want this country to suffer under another soul. You brought this up. Agreed. That must never happen again. So it's reassure that, yes, we're going east, but we're not doing the dictatorship playbook. Anyway, the grocer really is a nice person. He threw in some extra vegetables with my... Frank suddenly slammed his hands on the table, rattling the plates. Monica, Diana, and I stared at him. So this is how it's going to be. We're just going to sit here like nothing happened. Young man, I understand. But can you please also... You're old enough... If you think you're old enough to smoke, you should be old enough to know that... to know not to scare your little sister. Dad, you could have been killed. Mom could have been killed. Any one of us could have died. Diana's lower lip started trembling. Monica put her hand on Frank's shoulder. Okay. Yeah, I think I feel like that was a little bit. I understand his anxiety, but also honestly, that was a bit out of line, and he has to work. He has to grow up here a little bit. Okay, so how do we play this? This obviously is not helping because they're both afraid of they're afraid of, due to the complete break in normalcy, and talking about it costing me my own life is not something they want to hear. I could challenge him back and say, what would you have us do? So acknowledge him as acknowledge his concerns. Just say basically downplay it, or put him a little bit in his place. Now, putting him in his place in front of everyone else, I think, might actually not be helpful. Downplaying it either. I think I'm gonna have to engage him. I would. This is not what I would. I'm missing an option here to say basically, calm down, buddy. We can discuss this calmly, but not in this sort of emotional state. So do I play along with his emotional outburst, or do I put him down a little harsher than I would personally like? That might just effectively push him away, because he will feel that his outburst is justified, and that I'm effectively trying to shut him down. So he will perceive himself as a victim, and then shut us out even more. So, well, I think the least bad option here is to engage him on it, and try to clear the air. What would you have us do? I don't know. Talk about it, maybe. Okay, cool. That has taken the winds out of his sails. So let's see what Frank got up from his seat. Let's talk about it. Sit down. So again, take the emotion out. Give him a bit of rope. Acknowledge his concerns, and then maybe in private we can have another word about not doing this kind of nonsense in front of his little sister. Sit down. Frank took his seat again, scowling. Yeah. It wasn't a close call. Honestly, there was no threat to us at all. It was a single assailant outside. He had been taken down by the guards. He didn't even make it past the gate. And not everything is under control, in fact, in the country. I can just say, yeah, don't worry about it. It's all going to be fine now. Do you think I would let us go down so easily? Okay, I'm a strength. Put up a bit of display of strength here, because this is also, to a degree, this is him challenging authority. So putting up a bit of a show of strength is probably not a bad way to do it. Do you think I would let us go down so easily? He smirked. No. But it's not up to you, is it? Okay. How do we... Yeah. My security assured me that they took all the necessary steps. That's basically, again, me saying this is an admittance of weakness, because I'm deferring to others on this, and they feel that this is personal. I could say, just trust me on it. Just trust me, bro. Which, again, is dismissive of saying... it would basically do to dismiss him. Or I can go in a little bit more and say it was one rogue shooter. We were not even the target. I agree. This leaves some gates open, though, to say, what if the next time it's 10 rogue shooters and we are the target? But let's see if he backs down from that. But he felt acknowledged that his concerns were talked about, and we will be... he needs that at the moment, I think. It was one rogue shooter. We were not even the target. But what if we were? Frank, listen to your father. If your father says we don't need to worry, then we don't need to worry. Okay, so she's putting an end to it now. You have to trust him. This is good, actually. This is great teamwork, because if I had said, dude, just trust me on this, it would have been a challenge to him. But since effectively, I've taken the strong position in acknowledging his concerns and acknowledging him as grown up enough to voice his concerns and be heard. And now she's taking the softer position of effectively ending the conversation here. Then this was her way of saying, okay, that's enough now. Let's wind it down. You were able to let it out. We aired it, but we'll be all right. You're gonna have to trust us to a degree here as well. She turned to me. We all have to trust each other. Yes, exactly. Things calmed down a bit at the table. We finished our food in silence. Frank got up first and retreated back to his room. Monica lifted Diana up and plopped her in front of the living room TV before returning to the table. She sat down across from me. Okay, now, does she agree with how I handled this? We will see. Anton, he's still young. I know, but he is in high school. Okay, he's had every opportunity. I never did. Why is he still acting out? No. I understand this, right? His normalcy has been changed. He's been moved. He is now part of something larger, and he's going to have to come to terms. He's going to have to come to terms with the fact that the world is a bigger place, and that there's going to be insecure times. There are going to be difficult times, and what he needs is effectively the reassurance that we're going to get through it. But he also needs to know that he needs the confidence that he has to man up, and he's not a baby anymore. I understand that you think of him as that. It's a completely natural thing to do, but he will need to grow up quickly now. There's not much longer we can shield him from the ugliness of the world. I made plenty of rash decisions when I was his age. That is the prerogative of the age. But I think he's at the age where he needs to understand that what the world is like, because the world is going to come down hard on us if things go sideways, and he cannot be coddled anymore at that point. There's not much longer we can shield him from the ugliness of the world. He's scared, Anton, and frankly, he isn't the only one. I know, we all are, and you are too. I understand that, which is why I said earlier that the whole cooking exercise was a coping mechanism. All you need to worry about is putting more delicious dinner on our table. Shut up, woman, and get to the kitchen. I mean, it is the 50s, right? It's understandable, but still amusing that the game's giving me these options. If there truly is any threat to this family, you will be the first to... No, that's not helping, because... okay, so we can do two options. We could basically saying, yeah, look, we're all in this together, and things might get worse from here on out. I don't know if the military situation has made it into the public. So I could effectively reassure her. She is, however, not a housewife. She has her own political views and everything, and her own experience in public organizations. She's not some child. So I can basically say, look, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'm worried as well. Things might get ugly from here on out. We don't know where this is going. We're looking at a potentially further clashes. This is not just... I can't just say that there is no threat. Things might escalate. Things might get ugly. But we have a responsibility at this point, because I am the elected president of this country. And we are going to have to get through it together as best we can. She got up, stood behind me, and massaged my shoulders for a moment before leaving me alone in the dining room. I sat alone at the table and drained my glass of cabbage. So I think she, had I been lying to Frank and Diana, was the threat to my family truly over? There is no persistent direct threat right now. I haven't lied. No, definitely not. I think what I've said has been the right thing to say to the kids. And given the current situation. And I think Monica as well understood that, we're all going to have to get work together to get through harsher times now. And everyone's going to have to, well, show some grit. So we're in this together. Time would tell. I don't think the threat is truly over, for sure. I think there is a definite threat also to me and my family directly. The assassination of Sirkas was a message. That much is clear. And that message was directed at not just... that message was both directed at my government to say, look, we know who you are. We can hit you anywhere we want. You're not safe. So that is a direct threat against me and my family from the Young Swords and other nationalists. And with the decisions that I have planned for the future, like the eastward orientation, that is only going to escalate further. So we will have to deal with the security situation, but there might be more trouble. We might be seeing more and more fighting in the streets. We might actually be seeing actual war, which obviously also includes a foreign threat to me as a person, because obviously Rumburg might be interested to eliminate me as a head of state if I turn out to be an obstacle in their plans, in order to, and they're already shown to be happy to hand weapons to separatists. So I wouldn't rule that out at all. No, the threat against the family is definitely there.